Welcome to Flunking the Written, a fully spoiled Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast in which two Uber fans break down every episode of the show. Join Kimberly and Megan every other Tuesday as they overanalyze each scene and discuss the Buffyverse at large. Now let's meet up with the Scoobies and get into this episode of Flunking the Written.
What can I say? I flunked the written.
All right, Kim, we have made it to Season 4, Episode 1, The Freshman. It is written and directed by Joss Whedon, and the DVD blurb: Buffy's initial trouble adjusting to college life is soon overcome when she discovers the only difference between high school and college is that the monsters are bigger and badder.
But they're really not in this episode.
What a weird blurb.
Yeah, that sounds like it was written by someone who's never seen the show. It's all kinds of vague.
What a way to start the season. I have a lot of gripes about this episode. I don't really dislike this episode, but it's definitely a season opener where they're trying to figure out the new structure of the show now that we're out of high school, and it's got a lot of rough edges because of that.
It does, yeah.
Unfortunately.
And parts of it just make no sense at all.
We'll hop right in. We start in the graveyard. That's very Buffy.
Yes, very familiar. Giles is not there, just Buffy and Willow. I don't know if they're trying to point out that Giles isn't the Watcher anymore or anything like that.
He's just the absentee dad. But yeah, they're picking out their courses, or I guess Buffy's picking out her courses still. Willow is still figuring it. It's weird because it still announces later, Willow's just yeah, I got the courses I wanted, and I'm just it's the first day of class. Usually that's already figured out by that point, but maybe, I don't know.
Is it the first day of class?
The next day is the first day of class.
Oh yeah,
or something like that. It's basically within days of starting class, and
yeah.
you can get into those classes early. That Willow would have gotten it done already. She would have had her schedule 100%. Figured out at the very beginning of summer. There's no way. As soon as she decided UC Sunnydale was where she was going, the entire curriculum for her entire education would have been mapped out. So there's a lot of questionable things. But yeah, it's maybe 2 days before classes actually start is kind of the vibe I'm getting based on how the show proceeds from here. And Buffy's trying to figure out what classes she should take, and Willow's making suggestions such as the introduction to the modern novel. In which...
Yeah, almost every class that they mention in this scene is a class I would want to take.
Yeah,
they're so specific.
It's that, and then what's the one that they eventually, what is it called? Images of pop culture. Oh, gosh. Yes.
And then when they meet the next day, I'm going ahead and say this now because it's in it. Willow says that she had to switch modern poetry for ethnomusicology. Musicology. But that's cool. West African drumming, I think it's going to change everything for me. So West African drumming is a very specific class.
It's hyper specific. First of all, these are not typically the classes you take in your freshman year.
No, these are senior level electives. Yeah.
But there's a lot of that kind of stuff where I'm head scratching my way through this. But it's funny because in this conversation, Buffy also talks about how Willow's had her major picked out forever. But I was do we ever get Willow's major? Because my gut would be some kind of computer science degree of some sort.
Yeah.
But we barely see her pursue anything with computers in college. It's always deeper thinking and
philosophy.
Yeah, she's all into that stuff. It's an odd mix, the classes they choose to go for in college. But they're taking psych. That's pretty common, an early course to take. I don't know how often you can count it as a science requirement, though.
Yeah, they say that can be counted as a science requirement. I don't think so. And there's other science requirements. You have to take the sciences.
Yeah, it's not just one
And
science.
Psych is liberal arts, not science.
Yeah,
I think maybe they said that to make the whole Maggie Walsh creating a Frankenstein type monster make more sense because science.
She's a scientist.
She should have been like the anatomy professor or something, you know?
Ooh. So already off to a great start. Real messy. This entire time they're waiting on a vamp to rise. And Buffy's kind of talking about how, you know, she hasn't been able to focus on school so much because it's been a Slay-heavy summer, and she's worried that school's gonna, you know, take her edge. And while they're talking, the vampire actually claws out of the grave, starts to approach, sees the weapons, and pieces out while they're completely distracted. And so Buffy's a little out of sorts. Not really sure what direction she's going in. She's not in high school anymore, and that's the opener.
I don't understand why they're sitting with their backs to the grave.
It seems like if you're waiting specifically for that vamp to rise, you could just sit on the other side of the gravestone you're leaning against.
Yeah, to see it. And also, I'm going to mention this more than once in this episode and the next episode.
Okay.
Because it drives me crazy. Why aren't they roommates? Why aren't they roommates? You can request a roommate.
Like,
and if two people request the same roommate, they let them room together.
So it's so odd because the things that are pretty flexible in college apparently aren't flexible at all at UC Sunnydale. But the things that you would have to jump through so many hoops to do, you can just get that done.
Yeah.
That's easy. Going on the path of UC Sunnydale doesn't make a whole lot of sense. After we get our lovely opening credits, we get Buffy's kind of like first day freshman orientation, crazy, you know, crowds and everything like that. I was just like, so I've accepted that Sunnydale has a college that we've never really elaborated on. That is also apparently just like 5 miles away. So like it's like right in the heart of town. Like it's not like something that has the Sunnydale name, but kind of almost is its own little city outside of Sunnydale. It's within the Sunnydale like stratosphere. But it's this big. It's this big of a school.
That you can get lost there.
It's like super lost. Even with a map, you're still lost. But it really falls away after this episode. And like I could kind of see that they were going for a vibe of it feels that big to Buffy. Like if you get that deep into Buffy's headspace, that like that's how crowded it felt. That's how massive that library felt. Like it just feels that way. But realistically, that's not actually what it is. But it doesn't give you enough clues to say that that's really what they're going for. Like this is the actual school. There's that many students actually there. That library is actually that massive and elaborate and detailed. They have world-renowned teachers there. I mean, but definitely after this, I think UC Sunnydale definitely like shrinks in scale. It doesn't feel this big later on in the run, in the college years.
Why do you say that?
I guess just because maybe it's just not as prominent, but you get your tiny little cafeteria space and your tiny little lounge space after this because they have to have regular sets.
Yeah. And we never see that library again.
No, that's an on-location filming spot. They couldn't do that all the time. They were just like, we're going to do this one and done. It's going to be a big library. It's going to be real pretty. And we're never going to see it again. I'm sure that's an actual library, and I'm sure I've known it at some point what library that is or what film location that is. It is very pretty. We've already bounced around a lot. So, first day orientation. That's where we were.
And Buffy is completely lost and has no idea where to go or what to do.
Yes.
Seems weird. Buffy's never been uncertain, shy, confused type. And they do that a lot in this episode.
Yeah.
And she's never really seemed to have a problem with new, like, this is the same girl who at 16 years old ran away to Los Angeles, the giant city of Los Angeles, for an entire 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And worked as a waitress and rented her own apartment, and she can't handle checking in at college.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
It's definitely character breaking for me a little bit. Like, I get the vibe that they're going for, but it's, little fish in big ocean. But, like, Buffy's from LA. She's used to crowds. She's used to chaos.
And the scene where she's walking through and, like, every, like, 5 steps, another person hands her a flyer.
Mm-hmm.
No. I mean, there's groups like that, but not that much.
Yeah.
She realizes she has the wrong color folder from announcement that someone's making and tries to, like, leave to go in the direction she's supposed to go. And she walks kind of through a protest and then a party. And then the script says a conservative young woman that hands her a leaflet asking if she has accepted Jesus Christ as her savior.
I meant to, and then I just got really busy.
The party where the guy specifically says free Jello shots for freshman women.
Yeah,
don't go to that party.
That's creepy. That's not the party you want to be
Don't
at.
go to that party for a couple of reasons.
If you're going to insist on going to that party, don't go to that party alone.
Yeah. So the free Jello shots for freshman women is a creepy thing to say. But also, like, the type of parties that we have at UC Sunnydale are the type of parties that apparently you have to pay for your drinks.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. Well, I guess, do fraternities and sororities do that? Like,
sometimes there's, like, I would assume some kind of cover charge to get into the party. But, like...
I mean, I went
specific
to college
drinks being free versus other.
I occasionally went to a sorority or fraternity party, but like that wasn't really my scene.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah.
It just seems like
I don't remember them ever charging for drinks. So.
Yeah. It's just weird on multiple levels. But yeah, if their advertising for a party is targeted towards, hey, we're going to get freshman women drunk, don't go to that party.
But then Willow, like, just kind of runs into Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, is weird. Because why aren't they doing this together? Why didn't they meet somewhere?
Yeah.
They just happened to run into each other on this giant campus.
Yeah, that's the part that, like, makes it feel like maybe they're playing with the idea that it's bigger in Buffy's head than it actually is, because they show these huge wide shots of these great crowds and the feeling lost and not being able to figure out where your building is and all of that stuff later on. But also, Buffy just randomly runs into Willow multiple times this episode.
Yeah.
Just out and about. Yeah. They just stumble upon each other.
And Willow mentions that it's so cool, there's so much stuff going on, and that she's got a whole stack of leaflets and flyers in her hand, and she's excited about all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I'm angry about each and every one. And then Buffy shows her Jello shots, and Willow's like, I didn't get Jello shots. And says, I'll trade you a Take Back the Night. And Buffy just gives all of hers to Willow. But like, why are you trading a Take Back the Night? I'm not gonna go to Take Back the Night.
Maybe she got multiples.
Maybe. And then Buffy is asking about, like, she needs to get her ID card, and Willow's like, oh, I got mine already. The line's really long. And
they did not coordinate well.
No, not at all. And Willow kind of gives a little speech about how hard it is to learn in high school, and how here everyone wants to learn, and it's just amazing, and all the knowledge and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they run into Oz on this giant campus.
Yeah, it's big and small at the same time. I like how Oz is kind of sympathizing with Buffy, but also completely in his element. And it's very much understood here that Oz is older than them.
These people.
Yeah. So like there was probably people that go to this school that graduated when he was originally supposed to graduate, that he's reconnecting with on top of everything else. So his friend circle's increased a lot. Good for you, Oz.
Yeah.
Oz is one that's definitely shown to have like a lot of friends outside the Scoobies. Like people just gravitate to Oz. He's friends with everybody. He's that kind of person, and I believe it.
Okay, and they go to the library, and some comments about Giles and where he's at and how he's unemployed.
Yeah.
And they mention Xander and where he's at. He's driving to all 50 states.
Yeah. And this is like, I think the clunkiest part about this episode is it's just constant conversations about stuff these characters already know, just to fill in the audience, just to remind the audience. It's literally just exposition dump after exposition dump. And it's so tedious to watch when you really start thinking about it. And you're like, why are they talking like this is new information?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one kind of the way they say it. Have you heard from Xander?
Yeah.
And then Willow says something he specifically told her. So it is tedious, and you know,
they try to make it work, but it's definitely like, this is exposition for the audience. This is how this scene always plays in my head when I'm watching it. I'm just like, I see what we're doing here. This very organic conversation that's happening here. I see what its purpose is. So they get into the library. It's amazing. Willow's so excited. She badmouths Giles's library back at Sunnydale High.
Yeah. Badmouth the Sunnydale High Library.
And then they transition in some way where I'm not really sure if they're in like a part of the library or a bookstore off the library or how this all connects, but they're definitely getting their books for their classes. That's where they've transitioned.
The campus bookstore.
Yeah. They went to the library, which may be attached to the bookstore. I can't quite figure it out. But they're definitely buying the books because Buffy, of course, has that line of the bill for these books and how when her mom gets it, that she hopes it's a funny aneurysm, which is woof.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh. Oh, my heart.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh. So yeah.
Wow.
And they find moving on.
Can't just go on like you didn't just say that.
No, we gotta move on. We got Riley. So they find the introduction to psychology books. They're at the top of the shelf. Buffy tries to reach, but she's indeed a short person. I can relate.
The way Buffy acts in this scene, this is you would think she's never seen a guy before. Like, she did not have a almost 2-year-long relationship with a man who was 200 years older than her. She is acting like the 13-year-old in junior high act when they get to go to the movie theater with their older sister and her friend.
Perhaps the regression that they decide to place on Buffy is a little harsh.
A little, yeah.
But yeah, she knocks some books over and bonks Riley on the head. He's a well-liked Buffy character that nobody has any problems with. So here's my thing. I really like the introduction of Riley. I really like Riley at the beginning. They definitely fell his character at places throughout his arc, and we'll talk about that at length when we get to those sections, I am sure. But like, Mark Blucas is just like the most charming guy ever. And so much of just my love for Mark Blucas just carries through, and I'm just like, God.
He's Captain America. He's like Captain America.
Yeah, he kind of has that. But like, it's just, he's so charming. And there's things in this episode that I forgot were very like Riley things to do. And he doesn't do them all the time because they keep like taking him down those really dramatic paths. But when he's just like, has his dry wit about him, he's just very charming. And I enjoy just the like, I would have liked Riley as just the TA. Like, they did all the initiative stuff and they do all these like, you know, demon fighter stuffs, but just Riley, the TA who's passionate about psychology and wants to like hang out with Willow because Willow's also passionate about psychology. I like that guy.
I never really had a problem with Riley, and I feel like he has more of a personality in season 4 than he does in season 5.
Yes.
I think like once season 5 starts and they kind of know that they're going to end that relationship, like the writers know that they're going to end it, they kind of make him have less of a personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, they definitely fail him in places. If people are coming to us, I think, to hear a bunch of Riley hate, this is probably not the podcast.
Oh, no. I'm probably not ever going to hate on any of the characters. And I'm not sure that I ever have, like, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to hate on the writers a lot. And the decisions they make.
Yeah. We do have this meet cute between Riley and Buffy.
It's not a meet cute. It's so cringe.
But she's so
like,
nice to meet.
It hurts to watch. Willow and Buffy have switched places. And Willow is the cool, in charge, popular person, and Buffy is the little spaz standing behind.
Yes.
They have switched from like where they were in the first episode of the entire series.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Buffy was kind of initially the it girl in high school. So you could kind of see that she would be out of her element in college potentially if you were going to a like prestigious school. But UC Sunnydale?
Yeah.
UC Sunnydale? With their world-renowned psych teachers? Okay, I'm gonna move on from that. But yeah, like Riley and like Willow hit it off. I kind of wish that they had expanded on this more throughout and just had like a Riley Willow friendship with their love of school, because I think that would have been adorable. They wander off and you know, leave Buffy to
be on her own,
and be all embarrassed because she said that she was nice to meet, which I still love that. I wish of all of the random Buffy speak that enters into my regular conversational dialogue, I wish that one did. Anytime like somebody says, "It's nice to meet you," and me replying with, "I'm nice to meet," would just make my day. But it's never made its way in there. So we see Buffy going through the hallway at the dorm and entering in her very, like, you know, realistically sized freshman dorm room, which they pointed out, at least in the show. They're just like, man, this is a nice room, isn't it? It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice for a college dorm room, and big.
It is the size of a lot of, you know, people in like urban living situations, apartments. It is a very large dorm room. I have definitely seen a lot of New York City apartments that are half this size.
Yeah. I think the furniture is probably about normal. With the built-in desks and all that.
There's just so much space, though. They have all the space.
There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of wasted space in between. Like, yeah. Maybe
the student body like drops pretty dramatically throughout the year, so they can have larger rooms, and it's kind of awkward at the beginning because you may not have rooms for everybody, but like by the end of the first semester, everybody's got a room because there's not that many students left.
I mean, probably.
We are still in Sunnydale. We've only gone 5 miles down the road. So we meet Kathy. She's lovely.
She's annoying.
Now, I thought you weren't going to talk bad about any of the characters, Kim.
This is not a main character. I meant main character. Okay, so in this scene, Kathy is very, very perky and hyper and excited and stuff. And I will mention the scene in the show where she's putting up a poster.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffy gets a look on her face when she sees it, and it's a Celine Dion poster. So in the script, it's supposed to be a Backstreet Boys poster.
Oh.
It says, as she continues to talk, Kathy puts up a Backstreet Boys poster.
Mm.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting when I read it.
Yeah. I like the Celine Dion. Like, it's just so, like, for some reason, it's one of those I'm just like, I bet, like, that's what Kathy's rocking out to. That's Kathy's jam. That just fits with that character.
I think it's better, too. I'm guessing that's why they changed it. Yeah.
Maybe once they saw that performance, they were like, oh, wait.
Yeah. That's Kathy.
That's Kathy. We'll get a little bit more Kathy in a little bit.
Then the next day, Buffy is in a giant lecture hall, and a very gruff professor is down there talking about what the pop culture class is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffy goes to ask someone beside her if the class is full, and the professor immediately calls her out, like in a giant room, and like there had to be 60, 70 students in there?
Yeah.
What do you think?
And not a single one of them, other than Buffy, was making a peep.
Talking.
I don't believe that for a second.
And he immediately knows it's her.
Yeah.
And he calls her out and tells her to stand up, and I'm very excited to hear what you have to say that's worth interrupting my lecture. And it's very, very crotchety old teacher who's been teaching high school for 30 years. Like, this is not college professor stuff. Like, I never had a single college professor like this.
Not singling out a student, but I had one experience with a college professor basically kicking out the entire class It was the only class I remember dropping. Like, I immediately went and dropped that class because the college professor was just like that aggressive with their students.
But like in the first minute of the first class?
Pretty much. We went and sat down in the first class and they asked us to get out our books. And it was a class of like 6 to 8 students. Nobody had their books yet. And she kicked us all out.
Okay. You don't ever buy your books before the first day of class.
That is advice I will go to the grave telling every college student. Don't buy your books before the first day of the class.
Because sometimes the teacher is like, don't buy this book.
Yeah.
Buy this other book. Or here's a copy of the book that I printed out for you. Or go to this website. This is where the book's at. And you don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
Never buy the book, because the second you walk out the bookstore with that book, it's like a car. It lost 3/4 of its value.
Yeah. I have a friend who was kicked out of a theater class because he wasn't a theater major.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if you get into, like, hyper-specific classes, sometimes you get to those teachers. But this is, like, a classroom with, like you said, 50 students in it. It's some people are just taking it because it looks like it's going to be a fun class. Yeah. It's not just Buffy. And I'm sure more than just Buffy decided not to take that class that semester after that encounter.
She asked about the class. He's very insulting. He's very rude, saying she's sucking energy from everyone in the room. And like tells her to get out more than once while she's literally trying to get out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Buffy leaves.
I don't think I've had one as bad as that. This is definitely a dramatized version. But this can exist in college of just a teacher who is on some kind of power trip.
Yeah. Then she heads to her next class. She runs into Riley, and Riley refers to her as Willow's friend.
Yep.
And Buffy is, she is disappointed about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, when did Buffy become such a spaz? Like, seriously, she asked Riley if the next professor is going to yell at her and kick her out of class.
Literally for this episode until she's suddenly not at the end with no real explanation. And also that one episode with Owen, that one too. Those are the only spaz Buffy episodes.
She wasn't so much spazzy in that one as like trying to be something she wasn't.
Yeah, she's pretty spazzy in that one.
Spazzy in this one. I'll have to go watch that one again. I don't remember hers being spazzy.
Like this is definitely a forced trying to capture this moment in time, and like a lot of kids get overwhelmed by the beginning of college. It definitely happens, but it is something so weird to feel like Buffy's in this position when Buffy was like excited to go across the country to go to college. Like that's what Buffy wanted to do. And now she's where she can just drive home. Well, she can't drive. Where she can just go home. She can run really fast home with her Slayer speed at any point and be home. And she's freaking out. It is a good thing you decided not to go across country to go to school. So a bit of the charming Riley comes through here when Buffy asks about his head.
My head's fine. Just stung for a bit and I lost most of my basic motor functions. It's no big deal.
And that's like a trend of Riley that I forgot exists. I always remember the line in season 5 he tells her that he's not mad. He's plotting her death, sure, but in a happy way. And there's just, I like when that Riley comes through. I like that Riley. He makes me giddy. And then after asking if Professor Walsh is going to kick her out, he's like, it's not in her lesson plan.
Yeah. It's a weird question with no context.
So Buffy goes to sit down. Willow's there. Willow and Oz are there. And Willow asks, how was the pop culture class? And she said, it seemed dull. And then Professor Walsh comes in and makes a very striking introduction. Again, like very aggressive teachers all around. Like,
yeah. They're trying to make it how hard college is.
Yeah.
Like trying to show you how hard and uncaring college is.
Yeah. We get through her and her like weird call out to what her TAs call her, and how it's a hard class and that she assigns a lot of work and she expects everybody to keep up. And then she says the line, "If you're looking to coast, I recommend Geology 101. That's where the football players are."
Yeah.
Jesus. I would drop every class that's UC Sunnydale immediately. I'd be like, no, thank you.
Then we have her after class, I guess, by herself in the dark, walking around campus. But like, where did Willow go? Where did Oz go?
Yeah. What amount of time has passed here? It's very disjointed and uncertain. But that's okay, because we have Pedro Pascal. Yes. One of those celebrities every now and again, people will just like, guess who was in Buffy? But he plays Eddie. He's very young. He's very baby-faced. He's definitely not in Game of Thrones or Mandalorian at this point. Confused as all get out.
Okay, I did not know he was the Mandalorian. Did not know until just now. Oh my gosh. I gotta go watch this episode again.
He's so baby-faced in it. He's so cute.
Did not know.
But yes, the part that we've pointed out multiple times, this campus is so big that not only does Buffy and Eddie both lose their way, but Eddie even has a map. And it takes them both like scrutinizing it for a while to figure out how this map works. And we can see the map in his hands. It is not that complicated. It does not look nearly as complicated as they're making it out to be.
No, not even close.
Oh, the poor babies. They're just little freshmen. So they kind of figure out where they are and where they need to head, and then they start walking, and they talk about security blankets. And this is when Eddie, just casually drops human bondage. just like, oh yeah, of human bondage. That famous, book that Buffy would totally know. And she's just like, okay, so that's porn? And he explains that no, it's just a novel, and that he reads it all the time, and it keeps it by his bed and his security blanket. There's some hidden meaning, I'm sure, of why of human bondage was selected. My understanding, I've never read it, and I didn't really take time to read a full synopsis, but it's kind of something to do about attempts to break away from institutions and then ultimately being forced back into the institutions. So, yeah, I see that. College, all that. It's all very institutionalized. I get you. I see. Yeah. I see the nods. But yeah, they're walking along, and Buffy says that the closest thing that she has to a security blanket is Mr. Pointy, and then quickly changes the topic when Eddie inquires about that. And they discover that they take psych together and basically talk about how the, scary Walsh is and how scary school is, and maybe it's supposed to get easier, and we'll at least kindred spirits in the fact that we're completely lost and have no clue. And they say goodnight, and Buffy walks away, and Eddie immediately dies. Because of course he does. Yeah.
Immediately.
Within seconds of Buffy being gone. So, Sunday. Lots of characters. Sunday shows up, asks if Eddie lost his way, and we expect that Eddie is not long for this world. We go through the commercial break, and it kind of shows all the vampires gather all of Eddie's things and leave a note, and then we cut to psych class dismissing, where Buffy's trying to figure out where Eddie is. Where could he be? And I love the little line of Willow, you made a friend. And Buffy's like, thanks, Mom. And so, yeah, Buffy figures out, suddenly the campus is very small and easy to figure out. She gets directly to his dorm. I mean, he did say what dorm he was in, but I guess just asks the RA, and he's like, oh yeah, here he is. Here's his missing stuff. You can go look through his dorm room.
Yeah, apparently they do that.
And she finds his security blanket in the nightstand, so she knows something is up.
Ooh, oops.
I feel like that's a pretty smooth little. I don't think it was so smooth that Eddie was just like, oh, security blanket, I'm gonna talk about this book, or the how he just blurted that out. But I do like the idea of that's the clue, that it wasn't just a runaway, that Buffy picked up on that book was still there. And she's like, now he would not have left this behind. There's something nice about that little moment. And then we cut to the vamp's little lair.
And there is a very surfer-like dude vampire, which is funny. And I actually think he's in another episode later, which is kind of like...
Yeah, they do that. The hat trick.
Yeah. And then just regular guy, Sunday, who is obviously in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And basically her minions. There's another girl there, too, who is trying on clothes of Eddie's. And Sunday's going through his CDs. They're basically looting his stuff.
Yeah.
They make little joke about what kind of poster each the freshman student have, and they've got a little tally going up there for it. And
yeah, it's very interesting to see like materialistic vampires in this way. Like we've definitely
no one else ever does that.
Yeah, we definitely get that again with Harmony. And I like when watching this episode, I was just like, this is kind of like a different version of Harmony's gang. Like it kind of has that feel. Like Sunday's definitely more menacing than Harmony is, but like it kind of has that vibe of they're just vampires goofing off. They're not into world domination. They don't want to like cause a big stir. They're actually kind of trying to do stuff in such a way where it's they're trying to do stuff in a way where it's not going to draw attention to them. Like they're just having a good time, just chilling.
Like normal live among the people vampires.
Yeah.
They're talking about how they're hungry, and Sunday, like, you know, we eat when I say we eat, and kind of yells at them, and then makes a comment about how they're going to let dead Eddie find their dinner. And the camera races over. You can see Eddie asleep on the floor, well, dead on the floor, and his eyes snap open. So then we go to Giles's house. Or his apartment, and Buffy, for some reason, Giles has the door slightly ajar because that's smart in Sunnydale, and she kind of sees it ajar and walks in calling for him, and there is a beautiful woman.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
I was gonna say like it was gonna be hard for them to like pitch a woman that's just like like she's worthy of Giles, right? Because Giles is on such a high bar. But holy crap, Olivia.
Yeah. She sees Buffy and is like, hi. And Buffy explains that she's looking for Giles. She needs his help. Giles comes out and tells Olivia she's a former student. And she's going to go change into something less comfortable.
Yes.
So she leaves. And Buffy kind of gets a little upset with Giles for having a sex life.
Yeah. He's old.
Yeah. Very, very old. And this happens in this episode and the next episode. It might happen in another one.
Okay.
I don't remember. But this one and the next episode, where they don't listen to Buffy.
Yeah.
In this episode, it's only Giles. But in the next episode, it's like all of them.
Yeah.
And they don't listen to her. They ignore what... And I'm like, you know, she's usually right.
She has a pretty good track record. I don't know if y'all been paying attention.
Yeah, it's like I get frustrated when I'm watching House, the medical show House. Because, like, they always argue with him. And he's always right. It's like
they don't even watch that show.
Well, I know they're not watching the show, but, like, they know that he's always right.
Maybe all of the cases that he works off camera, like the ones that don't make the episode, he's like constantly wrong, so it balances out.
Well, Buffy's not.
I will stand with you on that.
He's kind of like, oh yeah, not. She tells him she's worried about Eddie, that he disappeared, something's happening, and he's like, no, this isn't really a thing, and if it is, you can do it yourself, and I'm not your watcher anymore, and can't be there to guide you. And she gets kind of hurt, and oh, okay, I'm sorry to bug you, you know, because she just needed somebody.
Yeah.
So she leaves, and Buffy is wandering the campus, and there are a lot of people And she looks off in the distance and she sees Eddie. And he looks at her, then turns around and takes off, and she chases him.
Eddie! Eddie, hey! Wait up. God, I was worried that something had happened to you, and of course it has because you're a vampire. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
I love that little I'm sorry, like right after she realizes. It's so genuine and like just understood in that moment. Beautifully acted. I feel like this Sarah Michelle Gellar might be a talented actor.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. I have a feeling I might be onto something with that one. But he says that he's not, and like
No, he's not sorry.
yeah, takes her seconds to stake him. Like no effort at all. But then Sunday comes out and weirdly just owns Buffy. In a lot of different ways. Calls her out on all of her insecurities, insults her outfit, and then gets the jump on her and continues to like wallop Buffy easily, just taking her to the ground and eventually like messing up her arm bad. And to the point where Buffy flees. Like we see Buffy run from a fight. Holy crap. And they do this sometimes where just a normal vampire gets the better of Buffy, and it always feels weird. But I always like the idea that it reminds us that no matter how powerful Buffy gets, no matter how big of threats she ends up facing, there is still danger in the day-to-day. And the fact that she's kind of off her game and she just fights this group of vampires that any other given day she might have easily owned, but she's off. She just saw someone that she saw as a potential friend dead. Feels kind of abandoned by a lot of her friends, and she's just out of sorts. And then her outfits get insulted and she just gets beaten up. But I like that there's still a threat of a single vampire who just knows how to take advantage of Buffy in this moment. It doesn't really work out at the end where Buffy just suddenly doesn't have any shortcomings anymore and is able to easily take care of Sunday. Flip-flops.
There's two theories here. One is a fan theory I read once. I don't even remember where. And the other one is something you and I have actually talked about before in School Hard.
Okay.
Where Buffy, her feelings aren't great right now. She's insecure. She's uncomfortable. She's not at home. And that comes across in her slaying.
Yes.
She's not as good of a slayer because she doesn't feel as confident in herself. And then the other theory is a fan theory I read about. I don't remember when or where, but it was a long time ago. But that Sunday is actually in the Slayer line. Like she was supposed to be a Slayer, but got turned into a vampire. And so that's why she so easily takes Buffy down this first fight.
Yeah, I could see that. Like she definitely works as a counter to Buffy. Like she definitely was cast very specifically to be a Buffy representation of just like a very confident, strong blonde versus Buffy's insecure, struggling to keep up blonde, you know? But I do like, I hadn't really thought about the tradition of when, you know, life kind of feels crappy, that Buffy's will to fight decreases, being represented in this episode the same way that it's represented in School Hard. But I feel like, yeah, you're right. It definitely is that same vibe of when she's not in it emotionally, and you know, like Buffy's talked about how much her emotions play into her ability to slay. When she's not feeling it emotionally, she doesn't fight as well, and she definitely gets her ass handed to her here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's not a pretty sight, and it always breaks your heart when you see Buffy hurt and fleeing for her life. You're just like, oh, my poor Buffy, I will protect you. I won't actually, because I would die instantly, but I will protect you.
This whole episode hurts for Buffy.
Yeah.
She just has the worst time.
Yeah, it's not a good first day of college. Her beginning.
Yeah, this is still the first day.
Her like, it's probably the second day at this point, but like it's the beginning of it's the first week, and I'm just like, oof, drop out. There's other paths. could do something different.
I would say it's at least a few days because Eddie has risen, but the show has never been consistent.
Yeah.
Sometimes they rise in the morgue at the hospital, sometimes in the funeral home, and sometimes they actually get buried before they rise. So, so then we're in Buffy's dorm room, and she's kind of cradling her arm and staring out the window.
Mm-hmm. Then we get Buffy, like, walking out onto campus out of one of the buildings, and then, like, you know, Willow and Oz are just there. Again, proof that maybe this campus isn't as big as it's shown to be in some of the scenes. Because they're just there. You just run into them real easy. And the Vamp Slayer again, where they're discussing Sunday's, you know, stunning defeat of the Slayer and kind of just bragging on her and talking about Buffy's fashion choices again. We do have a song here. There's several songs throughout this episode. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. I am going to, like, put myself on the spot now, though, that I am going to update the playlist on the YouTube page because I have not done that in a long time. So we've had our break. In between seasons break, I'm gonna have this done before this podcast airs. This is my reminder. This is the note to editing Megan. Get that done because it needs to be updated. But this is "I Wish That I Could Be You" by the Muffs. And it's, you know, kind of got some lines of like feeling like pulled down and feeling like they could fly and stuff like that. It's definitely like a I don't feel good in my own skin, but you look like you got your life together. Which is interesting that this is played when the vampires are just like lounging and stuff, and not played when Buffy's being all sad and uncomfortable in her own skin. But it is in the episode where Buffy's all sad and uncomfortable in her own skin. But yeah, there's a little line where Sunday says that Buffy's not gonna last the night, and it says that the vamps need to hit the tunnels. So foreshadowing something that's gonna happen in just a little bit. But first, we go home, and boy, do I have questions. It's real stupid questions, but like it's questions. So Buffy goes home. She's talking about how she's just kind of tired and figured that, you know, she didn't have class. She could just come home and crash in her actual bed, which is like valid. But like she goes to her room and realizes that Joyce has crammed it with a bunch of stuff from the museum, like a bunch of crates of stuff from the museum, because they're doing inventory at the gallery, right? They're doing inventory. So like, one, they don't have a place at the museum that they could store that, or a storage building. But two, where they decide to store it was at Joyce's house, not in the ample space that's available downstairs that she is currently occupying by herself. But no, she took all of those heavy things upstairs and stored them in Buffy's bedroom. I was just like, that just seems like a lot of extra work for just a couple of weeks of storage. She's like, oh, it's just gonna be a couple of weeks. I'm just like, who did you have that was willing to do that for you? I know you didn't carry all that stuff upstairs. Like, what kind of manpower do you have at that gallery that they're just like, no, this is perfectly reasonable to carry all of this to your house and take it upstairs and stack it in this bedroom upstairs instead of, I don't know, this massive dining room that you're, you know, eating your dinners at alone.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of jobs where you take your work home, but like Joyce seems to literally take these like priceless pieces home a lot. Yeah. And I feel like that's not the kind of job you take home.
Owns the gallery, so they're hers.
I guess.
You know, although it does never mention them selling the gallery or closing the gallery or anything once she dies.
Like that gallery's got to be worth some money, because like that's a investment Joyce has made into that over the years. And she must own it. There's no way she's allowed to take this stuff home if she doesn't own it. Like, it's not...
Yeah. And, like, Buffy could have worked there instead of the Double Meat Palace.
Yeah! It's just fixing all of this. Lots of questions. But anyway, just another way to make Buffy feel insecure and unwanted. That's what that scene is. And to say...
She's not even wanted at home.
Not even wanted at home. Buffy returns downstairs, and we get the little tie-in to the premiere of Angel, where Angel calls, and Buffy answers and says hello. The realization when you watch both of these episodes together, and that first time of understanding, oh my god! Yeah. That's really good. So she returns to her dorm and finds that all of her things are gone and that there's a note on her bed that just says, this is too much for me. I've decided to take off, and good luck this year. And she just kind of sits and clutches the note. Buffy's having a really rough first week of college.
Yeah.
It's not great. And then she goes to the Bronze where there's moody music playing and she thinks she sees Angel. So, still not great.
I mean, at this point, the only place left for her to try to go is the high school.
Yeah.
After the Bronze.
Let's go and chill at the, exploded high school. Let's.
Well, they do later. But...
Oh, man.
Okay,
oh,
so she is at the Bronze, and guess who she runs into?
Who?
Xander.
Wow.
I forgot about him. Earlier in the first part of the episode, you're like, is Xander even going to be in this episode? How weird. But then you forget.
Yeah.
You forget about it. And then, well, there he is.
Mm-hmm. Here he is. What an odd thing they decided to do with Xander. He's going on this cross-country trip, but it falls apart. And then Xander gets his version of Buffy's and Summer, but somehow it involves male strippers, because of course it does. Xander explains that he washed dishes at the Fabulous Ladies Nightclub for a month and a half, and apparently something happened, which he says that there's no power on this earth that he would tell that story, but yet he sets up the story that one of the male strippers called in sick. Mm-hmm. And apparently somehow he was dragged in. So when are we gonna get that?
I don't think we ever get that.
When are we gonna get
Buffy
that?
tells him he's not allowed to tell her about it.
I want to hear that story.
I kind of do too.
It's a weird throwaway gag that I'm trying to find if there's a meaning in there somewhere that they're playing with, and it's just not. It's just a throwaway gag that apparently Xander stripped at some portion of time between, graduating and returning to Sunnydale. It's a living.
And Xander gives her a little pep talk.
I do like
about
that.
How she's his hero, and it's really nice.
I do like the little Xander pep talk.
I've gone through some fairly dark times in my life. Faced some scary things. Among them, the kitchen at the Fabulous Ladies Nightclub. Let me tell you something. When it's dark, and I'm all alone, and I'm scared or freaked out or whatever, I always think, what would Buffy do? You're my hero.
It gets weird again, because of course it does.
Immediately makes it creepy.
Yeah, and then she says that's another one of those things that we never talk about. And he gives her the kick in the butt to go and take out Sunday. They're gonna straighten this all out, and she says thank you, and then they go off to do some Scooby Dooing at some undisclosed location with computers and files.
Admissions office.
Oh, it's the admissions office?
They're at the admissions office.
Okay, it's not clear.
They were able to do that because there's no security.
No security anywhere. No locked doors. In fact, most doors are left slightly open, just to make it real easy. That way nobody, even if the door's unlocked, nobody attempts to kick in the door to cause damage to the door, because they know someone's going to get in no matter what. So if the door's left slightly open, they're not even going to try to kick it in, because they'll be like, oh, it's already open, we can just walk in. Whereas if they just left it unlocked, they might still kick in the door, It's sound logic.
So they pretty much immediately figure out where Sunday and her gang are at.
Yeah.
By looking into when kids started disappearing and finding an article in a newspaper about Phi Delta losing its charter.
They got it figured out. They know the locale.
But this is like an administration office. Why are there old newspapers here? They're not at the library. This just happens to be an old newspaper there that says that in 1982 this happened.
Yes.
So they decide to go there. Mm-hmm. And they crawl up on the roof, and it has a skylight. And Buffy sees them trying on her clothes and is not happy about it.
Nope.
Then she says that, she doesn't see her weapons truck down there, so they might have left it and tell Xander to go get weapons from it for her. And then if not there, then go to Willow's and get them.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets upset because they've got her diary, and Xander's like, I'll hurry. And he leaves. And after he leaves, Buffy starts to threaten them with, hey, this time we're going to play it by my way. The rules are just a little bit different. And she falls through the skylight and lands in front of it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that was a beautiful synopsis. And that was all, like, it's very enjoyable to watch Buffy kind of like descend into madness as she gets angrier and angrier and then eventually falls through. And it's just like, oh. But I just went like on a whole like mind thing because it's mentioned Mr. Gordo in here, which I thought was funny because earlier they were talking about security blankets and now she's like, she didn't have a security blanket, but like Mr. Gordo feels like a security blanket perhaps. But also, didn't she have like that same conversation with Owen where he was talking about the poetry book and he was like, it's like a security blanket, and she's like, oh, I have something like that. Mine's an actual blanket. Like, am I making that up? Because I feel like that's a conversation.
But I don't carry it around.
Aw. So apparently, guys like books for security blankets. That's what I've learned from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Or somebody who was in on the writing team likes guys that like books for security blankets.
That too. Sorry, my mind just went down a whole different path there. Started replaying episodes from season 1. I was just like, huh. So yeah, Buffy's on the floor. Sunday talks about knowing her from beating the crap out of her. Buffy kind of stands up and makes a joke about dropping in that, oddly enough, doesn't really land. But
yeah.
Basically, a little back and forth about, what are you doing? This is, kind of a diabolical plan to throw yourself at our feet with a broken arm. And Buffy, I think at some point here, Buffy says, you made one mistake. And Sunday asks, what was that? And Buffy just says, well, I'm not sure, but statistically speaking, people usually make it. And then she gets punched by Sunday. And I think that's just, as spazzy as Buffy is, that little like moment of just like, statistically speaking, you've had to have made at least one mistake.
We're back in Buffy's dorm room, and Kathy is talking to Oz and Willow about the note, and Oz is like, yeah, it's weird. Kathy says it's weird. Willow says it's weird, and that Buffy would never do that. And then is like, oh, except for when she did that. And Kathy makes a point that she requested a stable non-smoker.
Yes. I like that.
It's not her writing.
Yeah, I like that Oz knows that. That's cool. Oz, little detective Oz. God, I wanted Oz on Angel so bad.
I wish he would have.
We get one shining episode
with Willow a little different.
Yeah. So they kind of start trying to figure it out, and Oz is like being realistic and saying like, she either took off or she was robbed, and then that's when Xander comes in and says, it's a prank! It's a, funny prank. And they get excited, and Xander hugs Willow, and then Xander hugs Kathy and realizes he doesn't know who Kathy is. And then there's the little exchange where Oz and Xander are too manly to hug.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yes, definitely. And then he further explains that the prank was conducted by Buffy's friends who sleep all day and have no tans. And
everybody catches on.
Yeah, most brilliant acting. Like, you can tell these guys have been covering for Buffy for years. Mm-hmm. Not suspicious at all. And then Xander even goes, nope, they took the chest. Says it out loud so the audience understands that that's what he's looking for at that moment is the weapons chest.
They leave to go to Willow's, and Kathy just kind of looks past them and doesn't think anything of it. And I'm sorry, if this was my roommate, I would be asking all kinds of questions. Like, yeah.
Well,
all kinds of questions.
Kathy's a little funny too, so.
True. She just wants to go to college.
Yeah. She doesn't fully understand the human's tendencies yet. She's just rolling with it. So as they're walking to, Xander says that they gotta go get supplies, and Willow asks if Buffy's in danger, and Xander says she's in a holding pattern, and then we cut to Buffy just getting wailed on some more. getting smacked around real good. And then Sunday comes around holding Buffy's Class Protector Award, and everybody in the audience gasps.
Yeah, no, can't do that.
Buffy says, "You don't want to touch that," and Sunday drops it on the floor and breaks it with her foot. And grabs Buffy by the arm, starts talking about how it doesn't look so good and then it might have to come off, and Buffy says that she only needs one. And yeah, Buffy's starting to get her groove back, apparently breaking that particular item, another one of Buffy's many security blankets that she does not have.
Yeah.
Buffy starts to turn the tide for sure, and one of the vamps says this is starting to suck. They're not into it. These are like just the chillest, like, we just want everything to go our way. And if somebody fights back, this is a bummer, man. I think 2 of them flat out run away. One of them we see, but I think one of them gets away that we never see again. They're just out. Any kind of resistance, they're just done. But yeah, Buffy fights, grabbing items around. Like, she sees her weapons chest, but does she ever go for her weapons chest? I think she just fights with stuff.
She crawls for it at one point, doesn't she?
Yeah, but I don't think she ever gets to it. I think she just fights with other stuff around the room, including like like she snaps a tennis racket and uses that as the final stake, right? Is that what she uses?
Yes. A tennis racket.
Yeah.
And anyway. She uses, that's what she normally does. She normally uses
she don't need no weapons. So, yeah, the Scoobies run in, Buffy's fighting handily, Willow dusts a vamp, Xander dusts a vamp, everybody's doing pretty good, and then Sunday in the fight with Buffy again, and Buffy says, when you look back at this, in the 3 seconds it'll take you to turn to dust, I think you'll find the mistake was touching my stuff. So a little callback, the one mistake she made. And Sunday says, what about breaking your arm? And Buffy's like, let me answer that with a headbutt.
Yes.
And then eventually says that her arm is hurt, but then like just smashes her across the room with a punch from her injured arm and says it's not broken. And this is when more vamps take off, and Sunday's pretty much all that's left in there after everybody else has been dusted or ran. And Oz asks if Buff needs help, and Buffy does just that iconic like steak twirl and flings it back at Sunday and just casually walks off the screen as Sunday dusts in the background.
I love that.
But yeah.
I would like to point out, though, that when she says, and for the record, the arm is hurt, it's not broken. Earlier in the script, it does say that it's broken.
She's already healed some.
Splintered. Yeah, pointing it out.
But yeah, this is pretty typical of Buffy. When Buffy's beat down, and then somebody says something or does something, and then suddenly Buffy's got her fire back. But
oh yeah, do not mess with that umbrella.
Yeah, when we talk about like Buffy and her like emotional core and like how heartwarming that scene is at the end of the prom, and how it's just like a cherished moment for so many fans, and like Buffy struggling so emotionally, and then like Sunday snapping that, and that could definitely be one of those things that breaks Buffy further. But instead Buffy's like, you know what? This is my moment. I'm going to take all of these emotions and I'm going to put them back into my slaying, and I'm going to do some good slaying. Yeah, she does it's a little bit of a jarring 180, but she definitely gets her groove back. I think the oddest thing, like I could kind of buy the gang arriving, and that really pushes Buffy to like be better at fighting again. The Class Protector world, while it is a symbol of Buffy's high school years, and you know all of the power that she gained through those years, and all of the encouragement that she felt from the student body in that moment of getting that award, it's just it feels again like just one of those moments where Buffy's no longer weak because Buffy's no longer weak. Like you just you know say something that irritate her in just the right way. And then she's no longer feeling like her little self-conscious, I can't do this, my arm hurts, kind of, you know. It's just, if you're gonna like regress Buffy in the way that you did in this episode, to where she feels so childish, she feels so much like Willow season 1 in certain scenes, and then you just have that 180, Like it's fun to watch, but it's weird to dissect as you're like watching it critically and you're just like, huh, that's kind of lazy writing, but okay.
I can see her losing it though at that point. Mm-hmm. To where she's like, oh no.
Yeah.
No. I remember who I am.
Yeah. I feel like, for me, I know the Class Protector Award is a big deal to Buffy, but it's not the big deal to Buffy like it is the big deal to the fans. I don't know. Like, I feel like I like the Class Protector Award, but it has so little screen time. It has the one scene that everybody cherishes, and then it's kind of busted up here. But, like, she also talks about Mr. Gordo, which is something that she's had for years and years. It's a childhood toy, and they're messing with that. That didn't snap her. You know, I don't know. I don't know why the Class Protector Award being the thing to trigger her specifically bugs me. But it kind of bugs me because I don't think it's as important to Buffy as it is to the fans. I think it's more of a nod to the fans and a nod to the place and time she got it and the breaking free of high school years. I feel like it's more of a symbol for the audience than it is a symbol for Buffy at this point. Like, that's just... If they had had more time with, I just don't know. I could see if it remained a prominent fixture, and it may just always be in the background and I never notice it, but it's so garish. You think you would notice it in the background of Buffy's room. But the fact that it's kind of forgotten after this episode and it's acted as her turning point, I think that's what bugs me. And there's a lot of things in the high school years that kind of happens too. Like, there's a lot of items that are really significant that eventually just kind of fall away.
Wasn't there a scene at the end of season 5 where she gets out that silver necklace and puts it on?
I don't think so. Maybe.
I thought there was. Like, it'd been in a drawer for a really long time and she's going back to who she is and all that.
Yeah.
She puts it back on. I don't remember. I think. Yeah. But maybe? Like, I might be thinking about a different season too, though.
Maybe. Yeah. Like the necklace, the ring.
Body ring.
Yeah. Mr. Gordo, Mr. Pointy, the umbrella, like all of them. I'm trying to think if there's a moment later in the series that any of those items make an appearance again, and nothing's coming to mind. The idea of stuff being something that Buffy, maybe that's my problem. I think I figured it out. I haven't been able to articulate my thoughts about this episode very well because I didn't prep for it very well. But I think my problem is that stuff is what brings Buffy back, right? Gets Buffy's mojo back, is items, random stuff that we don't really bring up again. It was significant in the high school year stuff, and that's what gets her groove back in this, to fight Sunday in this moment where she's still getting beaten, and then suddenly she has that turning point, because now her stuff's getting broken on top of being stolen. But it's just, while there's lots of items that are significant to the fandom, they all stop seeming significant to Buffy after this episode. And it's like a turning point for her, where she gets her groove back, she starts fighting and winning again because of these symbols that we associate with Buffy the Vampire Slayer getting hurt, right? You know, she mentions Mr. Gordo, she mentions Mr. Pointy. There's all of this stuff that's mentioned of the past, and it's not in it after this. So it's like a weird remnant of Buffy history. It's odd. I think that's my issue. It's like it's stuff and not people that get her back on track. Even though Xander ultimately is the person that got her back on track earlier in the episode. But like in this fight where she's still not really back at it correctly. It's not when the gang arrives. It's when Sunday breaks the Class Protector Award that Buffy does the 180. And even though Buffy came from that materialistic lifestyle, that's the thing that would turn her around. I could see threatening a friend turning her around. Buffy has abandoned all of her stuff before.
Yeah.
She went and lived in a crappy apartment. At the end of the
before she had the Class Protector umbrella, though.
Yeah, the Class Protector umbrella is a thing. You know, at the end of the show, like everything, like her entire slate's wiped clean. Yeah. And she's happy. Like, that's a hopeful, happy ending. I was just like, it's just weird that stuff is the thing. I think it's because I don't like consumerism. I'm anti-consumerism. Stuff isn't important, Buffy. It's a weird route I went down there, a weird rabbit hole I went down there, and that happens to me sometimes. It's not a fully formed idea, but there's something there that I think just doesn't quite work. Anyway, Buffy gathers all of her stuff.
Yes, and packs up all her stuff. They everybody helps her carry it out and have a brief conversation about how all that other stuff is just sitting there, right? It'd be a crime to not use it.
Yeah, we realize how important stuff is. I do like that a bunch of broke college students are realizing, hey, there's a house full of stuff we could just take.
Yep, lots of stuff. I'm sure some of it went to furnish both Oz and Xander's places.
Oh, yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
And then here comes Giles.
Yes.
And Giles he was wrong. He will always help Buffy. He is here to support her. Let's go get the evil.
Yeah. Where was this guy in season 6?
Yeah. And he comes, or in season 7, because Giles in season 7 just, who is that?
We'll get there.
Anyway, and Buffy's like, oh, yeah, thanks. And he's like, is the evil this way? And she's like, no, my room.
I do find it funny that, like, it's the box gag where Willow's just like, Giles, can you get this box? Well, like, of the people carrying stuff, you have Buffy who has superpowers, and then Xander's, pretty well built, and you have Oz who's short, but could definitely probably carry stuff. I mean, he's in a band. They haul stuff all the time, and then you have little Willow with like 2 giant boxes. And I was just like, who arranged these? She can't even see over them. But yeah. And then they all just kind of talk about how college is kind of a lot like high school. That Buffy can handle that.
Yeah.
And she knows what to expect, at least. And then we cut to the unexpected. But yeah, one of the vamps that got away, running around doing this vampy running away sneakies, and he gets zapped. He falls and starts like spasming as like electric like currents go through him, and there's some soldier boys just hanging out, coming out of the shadows. And yeah, I'm interested to see how much of my like fan theory headcanon's gonna play out in the idea that the initiative forms partially because of the absence of the mayor. Like I came up with that concept when we were watching season 3, and I'm really intrigued by if there's anything that I could kind of read in between the lines that would make me in a place where I could headcanon that.
You think they're that new?
I don't know. Like the fact that they're that out in the open. I don't know if it ever establishes how long they've been in the area. But like, man.
Well, it says Riley's a junior.
Yeah. I'll see if I can make it work in my head. But I like the idea of the mayor's gone and no longer has his thumb on everything that's happening in Sunnydale. So immediately, large agency, moves in to start hunting demons and experimenting on them.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd have had trouble doing that with the bear around.
Yeah.
Or maybe he would have supported it.
Maybe he funded the whole thing. Maybe that's the headcanon I need to find. Oh, boy. Yeah, so that's Freshman. It's a bit of a rocky episode, as was our analysis of it. A bit rocky in places. Maybe it'll all come out in editing. And guess what?
Next week's Angel.
We gonna do Angel.
Season 1, episode 1.
I'm excited.
Cordelia is back.
I'm excited.
And we get to meet Doyle.
Aw, I'm sad.
Yeah.
Next episode, we're doing Angel, and tentatively the plan is to just flop back and forth, do an episode of Buffy, an episode of Angel. If we see that that's really gonna, like, break the flow at one point, we might reorder them slightly, but it's fully spoiled. We know what happens. So if it's just a minor, like, this thing hasn't happened in this episode yet, but it's mentioned in the other show, it'll be fine. We'll make it through.
Yeah. They tried really hard to keep them.
They line up pretty well. But yeah. Angel, we're adding Angel to the mix, and we're going to cover all of it, all the Buffyverse. We're going through all seasons of Buffy, all seasons of Angel, and it's going to take a long time, but we're going to do it.
What about Firefly? Are we going to do Firefly?
There is that like fan theory that's still part of the Buffyverse.
Yep,
Like it's all like super future, and that River's a Slayer. Yeah, let's do it.
That's where I was going with it. River might be a Slayer that was activated.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, we thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And this is where we say bye.